did you guys find the admissions process?
I mean, it's certainly not easy, is
No.
it? It's thinking about all the things you have to get, all of those things to tick off to make sure that one, it's right for you, but two, you're doing the right thing by going to the right uni or sitting the right exams and just working out what's best.
Yeah, I kind of think of it, and kind of when I talk to people who are applying, I kind of think of it as like there's one hurdle after the other. Like you've got to get your grades, so you've got to get your GCs, you've got to get your A levels, but then there's also the UCAT and the BMAT, and then there's the personal statement, and then there's interviews. It's a very, very long road, but I think you just got to break it down and think of it in stages.
In some ways, deciding to do medicine is the easy part, and then the hard part comes afterwards. All those hurdles.
Yeah.
Did you guys do the BMAT? Any of you, or UKCAT? When it used to be called UKCAT.
Yeah. So I just did the UCAT.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same, just the UCAT, and then it's nice because we have a balance here. So Imperial students. With
both of them.
Yeah, we did
Right.
both. Yeah.
How did you find the BMAT?
So I feel like my experience was not exactly stereotypical. I had my appendix out
Oh my
on the
gosh.
Monday and sat the exam on the Wednesday.
Wow.
So not your standard experience, but in terms of actually prepping for the exam, it was really helpful that I'd done the UCAT before, because you had all of those like basic numeracy skills and all of those like quick thinking things really up to speed. And then it was just going back over the basic sciences and knowing that you know your stuff well enough that you can work out that answer in 1 minute, and just having to really practice that over and over. And then we don't discuss the essay.
You see, I'd say the other way around. Like for me, I think it suited me more than UKCAT because I liked the essay writing part. I thought that sort of suited my skill set a bit better. And then I also liked that it was kind of knowledge based in terms of the science as well. Whereas sometimes with UKCAT, I won't lie, it was just kind of picking 1 out of 5 and just like taking my chances. Sometimes because it's very abstract sort of skills. Whereas I felt like I could be more prepared for the BMAT personally.
I think with BMAT, you already have those skills that you've learned across school to apply to the test. Whereas UCAT, as teachers, we know it's something that you learn, those strategies, those tips and tricks. And if you don't know them, it makes your life quite hard.
Yeah, I was going to say, but I didn't do the BMAT, but I do think that the skill set that is required for the UCAT is also quite similar to the BMAT. So I think people doing both, there are skills that you can transfer between both exams.
I think the key thing to take is, as you've seen, that 4 of us, how different we are in terms of our skill set. Like you were describing how you're better at essays, and we're now discussing the differences. It shows for any medical student thinking about, or prospective medical student for the future, they shouldn't be scared or intimidated, because clearly we're showing that we're not perfect at the exams either. We struggled with certain sections. I mean, you had your appendix removed 2 days ago. That's just extraordinary. So I think you have to take it in your stride, and it's going to be very, I think, mentally straining is what I'd use that application period. However, see it as an opportunity, because that's what I think I did. I saw, okay, look, this isn't my strength, but I'm going to have a go. And if it opens doors for me, great. If it doesn't, I'll just use other bits of my application. So I think going forward, always take the positives from these things. They're not ideal, these exams. I've never had to use some of those skills again. In medicine, I'll be honest, abstract reasoning, etc.
Until you start to teach me again.
Exactly, until I taught it again. But have that mindset that, look, it doesn't matter if this is a bit random. I'm going to try my best, and then going forward, we'll see what happens. So I think that's really important.
And we're all totally different people. Like, we can tell already that we have different interests and different journeys, but we still made it. And I think there's a misconception that you have to be a certain type of person to get into medicine, and that puts people off from even trying to apply. So I didn't do the BMAT because, I don't know, I wasn't prepared to have another hurdle in my journey. And I really, really wanted to go to UCL ever since, I don't know, since I went to the open day. And then when I found out it was a BMAT uni, my hopes were dashed. But I didn't let that stop me from still applying to medicine. I ended up at King's, and I love it there.
No regrets.
And exactly, no regrets. So I'm pretty sure that the fact that I didn't do the BMAT doesn't reflect badly on me. It just means that I played to my strengths, and I got what I wanted in the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How was UCAT preparation?
So for me, I did the Kaplan course, and kind of before that, I was, to be completely honest, completely lost with the exam. I just was never being able to finish the questions on time and had absolutely no strategy going into the exam. But one of my friends was also applying to medicine, and she did the Kaplan course, found out about it, recommended it to me, and she did really well from it. So I think having not done the course and doing how I did in the UK, I wouldn't have opened that door for me to get the interviews that I did. But no, I don't envy them at all now.
What about you?
I think for me it was important that I had a few friends who were sitting the exam. If it was before me or after me, I know that period can be really lonely, where you feel like even in your school you're one of only 2 medical student applicants. You might not be the best of friends, and it might get a bit competitive.
Yes.
And that is a theme that occurs throughout medical school. It's really important to break those barriers and really see behind the stress and see behind the tensions, and try to see that other people are struggling and striving and etc. too.
Yeah.
So for me, my friends and I, we discussed the best strategies, etc. We decided that, what questions to do, or using the Kaplan course, of course, we went together. So all of that was really helpful. So for me, the advice would be, have a strategy in place, know your own weaknesses as you're preparing, but use others as well for that kind of common ground, and see how everyone's in it together, even if you are competing. So that's a theme.
You can definitely learn so much from other people.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that the race to medicine, and even afterwards, it's kind of dog eat dog, everyone for themselves. Yeah. And it really shouldn't be like that, considering we're in a profession all about helping people. So it's quite ironic, but that's really nice that you were helping your friends and doing it together. Did you guys have similar experiences?
I was quite lucky. Like, I knew people in the year above me that had done medicine the previous year, and that was such a help to me, because they could guide me through the admissions process. They could kind of learn from their advice, and learn from their experiences, because they've made mistakes so that we don't have to make the same mistakes. You know what I mean? And I'm sure it's the same when you talk to younger students that might be going through it, for you guys as well. I might say, don't go to this insight day, go to this. You can recommend things so that you have a more effective preparation in terms of getting into medicine.
Exactly.
So I unfortunately did not have anyone I knew that had recently applied to medicine. The only person I knew was 2 or 3 years older than me, and obviously at that point already
everything changes.
So much.
So it was frantic Googling and YouTubing, finding all of the techniques I could find, and basically just having a stab at all of them and seeing which ones stuck and which ones actually made a difference to whatever scores I was getting, and just making sure that if it didn't work, don't keep doing it. If you find something else that's working better, try that method instead.
That's a good point, because I think it's all about being really proactive and being very reflective as well. So knowing yourself, what works, what doesn't, what your strengths are, and playing to those instead of playing to your weaknesses. So I personally was meant to do the UCAT beginning of August, and a week before I did a mock, and can anyone guess what score I got? It was atrocious.
Probably because you're a medical student, 750.
No, I got 400 because I had no idea what I was doing, and I just went into it blind, thinking, oh, it was just an aptitude test, and little did I know that it was all about strategy, pacing, things that I learned in Kaplan basically. And then I postponed my test to a whole month, and then I got a pretty good score and got into medicine. And I think if at that point I broke down and said, I can't do this, it would have been such a waste, because if I didn't realise I could do it, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have ended up here. So the main thing is to power through no matter what hurdle you face. Were there any other hurdles that you guys faced throughout the whole admissions process? We talked about the tests. Anything else? Did anything else come up?
I think it's important actually to reflect on what you just said about that time where you really question yourself whether you can do it. There will be instances, especially for me, as I balanced it with my A-levels, one of the biggest hurdles was that I got a D in my first ever A-level exam. And I think that's important I say that as well, because for those watching, they might think, okay, a prospective medical student, how can you get anything below an A or whatever? But it happens, and even some of my teachers were kind of pushing me away from medicine at that point. They were saying, you're not capable of doing this for now, choose something else, think about other things. And it was tough to kind of shut out that noise and still progress and still focus on yourself and try again. So I managed to turn that grade around going forward. And I think focusing on what you just said about not letting people and not letting your own almost, doubt get into your head. And it's okay to change a date, for example, like you did. It's okay to say, I'm not ready. It's about being flexible and focusing on your strengths and slowly improving your weaknesses. Which I think, so the biggest struggle is yourself. I think you're the only person that can really stop from getting somewhere.
Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a massive perfectionist. And I'm really hard on myself, super critical. So throughout the whole process, I think exactly what you said, I probably would have been the one thing that would have stopped me from getting into medicine. Even though my school wasn't that supportive, but despite all of that, if you power through, you can do it. What about you guys?
So I feel like with interviews, they were just sort of a myth. So I didn't really know what sort of questions they were going to ask, other than why do you want to come to why do you want to come to our university, or why do you want to do medicine? Other than that, I was like, what on earth are these people going to ask me? So I think finding someone who knew, not just had been to 2 or 3 interviews, someone who actually knew what sort of things they were going to ask. So finding someone who knew that was rather difficult. But when I found that person, he was a lovely elderly GP, and he had put his several sons through medical school, so he had a lot of experience with answering medical school exam entrance questions, answering interview questions. And I think if I didn't have that help, interviews would have been really, really difficult. Because you can get asked such obscure questions, and if you just answer them blind, it could sound a bit ridiculous. Especially some of the ethics questions. If you don't know any ethics whatsoever,
you could dig yourself a hole and not get out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the interviews for me was probably the hardest bit, because it's a lot easier to write an answer in the exam than to have to speak to someone for. When I did it, they were panel interviews, so they've probably all changed now towards MMIs.
Yeah, they started becoming MMIs around
my
year.
A couple of the unis I applied to were MMIs, but I went to my King's interview first and thought it went horrendously, and somehow managed to get an offer. And then, because that was my first choice, I didn't go to the rest of my interviews, which on reflection I wish I had done, because I think you learn so much from it, and even stuff that I could have carried forward now. But I think at the time, when I was 17, when I was applying, I'd never had any experience doing any sort of formal interviews or anything like that. So it's so overwhelming, and I completely can appreciate that.
Now. I think unis expect a lot of you at 17, and you think you have to be there, you have to be good. But you have to realise that you're applying to medical school to learn to be that person, and not already be that person.
I think that's the point I want to add to balance all of this. It might seem intimidating, knowing, and even looking back, that we had to know ethics, we had to know professionalism at that age, or communication, etc. Even though we were just literally in classrooms for the majority of our academic fledgling careers. But having said that, they're looking for ways you think, not really what you know. So you don't need to read an ethics book or 10. You don't need to go there, shadowing a doctor for the whole year to know every bit of his job. I was the same as you. After my King's interview, I laid on the quad, so we have a little green section after, so dramatically, in true Bollywood fashion. I was looking up and thinking that, my life, this is the end, But literally 2 days after, I got my offer, and it might seem unrealistic, but there was also interviews. I went to one of my MMI interviews, and again, not a perfect one. Not every station went well, and the offer came a bit late, but it came. And similarly, friends who got rejections and offers. So there'll be plenty of knockdowns when you apply to medicine, and there'll be plenty of stuff you don't know, which is still the case for us. So don't worry about reading everything and knowing everything and expecting a lot from yourself. Just try to progress, try to think in the way the doctor would, not necessarily know what a doctor is. And that's key.
Yeah, adding on to the knockdown thing, I think all the success stories you hear, everyone's been, easy cruising, everything's been smooth from the beginning. But actually, the majority of us have gone through a bit of trouble getting there.
Yeah.
I mean, your appendix got taken out, your Bollywood fashion breakdown after your interview, and you know, my awful mock score for UCAT. But despite all of that, we still made it.